being disrespectful, but they talked a lot of trash and they got humbled. And I think that that's okay. That is sports. That is what we live for in sports.
Aja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces got humbled finally. The Aces, with their 4 Olympians and unanimous MVP, thought they were going to steamroll the playoffs. But no.
We did pretty well. It wasn't our outcome, but damn, we did pretty good, considering what the hell we had stacked against us.
Now Aja Wilson is trying to pretend like she's not bothered. She didn't have a great performance at all. The game was played whilst controversy was surrounding Aja about the things she said about privileged players, like Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers. Wilson went on to say she's going to be just fine. She didn't seem bothered about going out of the tournament, trying to regain her name and respect from her fans. She is the first unanimous MVP in NBA or WNBA history to not reach the finals.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to hurt for me. We're blessed. I get to play the game of basketball, get paid while I do it. I'm around phenomenal women, it's a fun thing. So hopefully no one hurts for me. We're going to wake up the next morning and be pretty good, in a good space.
Caitlin has now got her payback on DJ Carrington after she was pushed a few days ago. Then Marina Mabrey. And now Aja Wilson after she got eliminated from the playoffs.
This went from being one of the most loved teams in the WNBA to being riddled with so much drama this season. Aja Wilson was under fire last week for the privileged comment that she made to Kelsey Plum. And Coach Becky Hammon was under fire for basically saying that her team was too busy being celebrities and they were distracted and that's why they're not winning games. The list goes on and on. If you're this Aces team, you really need to regroup and maybe make some tough decisions about the future of this team.
Aja Wilson, widely regarded as one of the league's greatest players, an MVP, and the face of the Aces, was expected to lead her team to the finals. However, they fell short, leaving fans and analysts alike wondering what went wrong. Beyond just a playoff upset, there may be a deeper narrative at play. Wilson's exit has stirred conversation, with some speculating that karma may have played a role. This comes in light of her controversial comments about Caitlin Clark, another rising basketball sensation. Could her remarks have contributed to the Aces' downfall? Let's talk about Breanna Stewart outplaying Aja Wilson the whole series, or nobody ready for the conversation. Made history by becoming the first unanimous MVP in WNBA history, an honor that seemed to cement her status as the league's top player. This accolade should have been the perfect exclamation point on an incredible season, setting the stage for a deep playoff run and possibly even a championship.
Who was unanimous MVP, which, by the way, is the first unanimous MVP in the NBA or the WNBA to ever not make the finals, which is something else. Fans are they're gonna share that. It does not mean that we are misogynistic or we're just hating on Asia. No, it's just this is what happens when a team loses.
Despite the Aces being one of the most talent-packed teams in the league, they failed to reach the finals, marking a major disappointment for both the team and Wilson. This makes Wilson the first unanimous MVP in WNBA history to not even make it to the championship series. For a player of her stature, this failure is more than just a missed opportunity. It's a significant blow to her legacy.
Who knows? Because, the talent's going to be there, the skill's going to be there. Everyone knows we're going to work in the offseason, but...
While Wilson's individual season was spectacular, her team's early exit from the playoffs casts a shadow over what was supposed to be a crowning achievement, leaving fans and critics to ponder the true value of an MVP title if it doesn't translate into postseason success. Now, this is where things get interesting. Earlier in the season, Aja Wilson made headlines for her comments about Caitlin Clark, the rising star from Iowa who has taken the basketball world by storm. However, Aja Wilson didn't seem to share the same enthusiasm. Reports surfaced that Wilson wasn't particularly thrilled about Nike's promotion of Caitlin Clark, with rumors suggesting Wilson believed Clark was privileged and didn't deserve the hype. This stance surprised many, as it seemed to go beyond basketball. Some perceived Wilson's remarks as an attempt to gatekeep the league, preventing an up-and-coming player from gaining attention. At the time, many wondered why a seasoned MVP like Wilson would take issue with a rising star like Clark, especially someone who could help grow the visibility of women's basketball. Was it competitive tension or something deeper? Whatever the motivation behind Wilson's remarks, they haven't aged well. In the end, Clark continues to ascend, while Wilson's controversial comments only add to the narrative of her disappointing playoff exit this season. While A'ja Wilson was focused on diminishing Caitlin Clark's rising star, Breanna Stewart was laser-focused on her performance on the court. Stewart, another MVP candidate and a player known for shining in big moments, completely outplayed Wilson in their playoff matchup. This wasn't just a fluke or a few standout games. Stewart dominated Wilson throughout the entire series. Her consistent ability to elevate her game when it mattered most contrasted sharply with Wilson's struggles in key moments. When the pressure was on, Stewart thrived, delivering crucial plays that led her team to victory. Meanwhile, Wilson, who had been expected to lead her team as the unanimous MVP, faltered. You have 6 Olympians in your team, you have the 6 podi, you have the refs. A'ja Wilson, you are the unanimous MVP. You have the point god. How much help does she need?
Fly as hell, but that is not the point of the story. Now, if you look at all these pictures and I'm connecting the dots here, they are all wearing Timbs. And someone may have left their Timbs at Barclays Center, which is how we got this iconic picture of the Liberty getting the last laugh. But believe it or not, the last laugh does not end here. Now, after this game in the post-game press conference, Breanna Stewart mentioned that she has receipts from last year, and so does the entire team. And she doesn't forget the things that, said people, were saying about them last year.
This raised serious questions about Wilson's ability to perform when it matters most. While her regular season accolades are impressive, her inability to rise to the occasion in the playoffs exposed a significant gap in her game. Stewart's ability to perform in big games is what sets her apart from Wilson, and it's a trait that Wilson has yet to consistently demonstrate. For someone with MVP credentials, failing to lead when her team needed her most is a glaring issue that can't be ignored. In the final game of the Aces season, Wilson managed just 19 points. For most players, that would be considered a solid performance, but not for someone who is supposed to be the league's unanimous MVP. In a must-win game, Wilson didn't bring the superstar energy that her team needed. Her presence on the court seemed off, and she didn't rally her team as great leaders are expected to. The Aces, with 4 Olympians on their roster, simply failed to deliver, and Wilson's lackluster performance was a major contributing factor. This disappointing end has left many questioning whether Wilson truly deserved the MVP title this season.
They need the big that can stretch the floor, get out A'ja way when she's trying to go to work, stand in that corner, shoot that ball, okay? Now, if I'm looking at somebody, I'm looking at Tina Charles. Tina Charles, a little bit older, yes. Smart. Knows how to play with other bigs, yes. Stretch the floor, yes. Do other things that A'ja might need her to do, yes. Okay? I'm Tina Charles, I'm trying to get my first ring.
This team wasn't just talented. They were stacked with some of the best players in the world. Featuring 4 Olympians, including A'ja Wilson, they were widely expected to dominate their competition and cruise to a WNBA championship. Instead, they faltered when it mattered most, crashing out of the playoffs in a stunning disappointment. For a team with such immense firepower, this early exit raises serious questions. Was it a lack of chemistry? Did the pressure get to them? Or did it come down to Wilson's leadership? As the unanimous MVP and the face of the team, Wilson was expected to elevate her squad, especially with so much talent surrounding her. Yet, when the stakes were highest, they crumbled. These lingering questions about why they couldn't perform under pressure will haunt Wilson and the Aces throughout the offseason, casting a shadow over what was supposed to be a historic run.
It's not going to be the same group probably next year. It just won't. And I'm sad about that because I really like that group. Now, what did y'all gather from that? Because I'll tell you what I gathered, all right? It's not going to be the same group. KP leaving. KP's a Valkyrie. That's what I got from it, okay? I'm not no magic translator or anything, but that's really what I think she was trying to say.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark, the player Aja Wilson reportedly didn't want Nike to promote, was navigating her own playoff experience, though from the sidelines. Clark's playoff run was cut short under controversial circumstances, with foul trouble haunting her throughout her final game. In one particularly frustrating moment, she was poked in the eye by DJ Carrington, which left her with a black eye and compounded the disappointment of her early exit.
And to act like there isn't or hasn't been legitimate resentment emanating from those who are pioneers. Nobody's fooled here. You got pundits who used to play in the WNBA, some of them who didn't, and who was speaking on behalf of those who didn't want to create that kind of noise themselves because of the negative impact. We talk about it when the men do it. If we detect jealousy, if we detect envy, if we detect resentment, and it's amongst the fellas, we put it out there. Shit, we act like it's the latest episode of General Hospital. But when the ladies are feeling that way about another young lady like Caitlin Clark, and people like myself and Shay Shay call it out, suddenly it's a problem.
Despite these setbacks, Clark handled the situation with grace. Her exit wasn't due to a lack of effort or skill, her performance had been stellar, but rather due to some unlucky breaks with the officiating. Even sidelined, Clark's presence was undeniable, and fans were left wanting more of her electrifying play. When she was eliminated, viewership noticeably dropped, underscoring her growing influence in the sport. Clark's poise and determination, even in the face of adversity, only further solidified her as a rising star, one whose future playoff moments are eagerly anticipated by basketball fans everywhere. One of the most telling signs of Caitlin Clark's rising star power is what happened after her elimination from the playoffs. Viewership for the WNBA playoffs plummeted. It quickly became evident that Clark was the primary draw for many fans, even though seasoned stars like Aja Wilson were still in the competition. Wilson's presence, despite her MVP status, simply wasn't enough to maintain the same level of interest. This shift in viewership speaks volumes about Clark's growing influence. It suggests that while Wilson may hold the accolades, Clark possesses a unique charisma and star power that captivates audiences. She's become a player people tune in to watch, not just for her skill, but for the excitement she brings to the game. In the end, the fans have spoken. Caitlin Clark has proven to be the real MVP when it comes to keeping viewers engaged and invested, signaling a potential changing of the guard in women's basketball as Clark's star continues to rise. This brings us to the ultimate question: who is the real MVP? While Aja Wilson may have won the unanimous MVP award, her inability to step up in the playoffs and her team's early exit raised doubts about whether she was truly the most deserving. Breanna Stewart dominated her in their head-to-head series, while Caitlin Clark, despite her own early exit, was the player who captured the hearts of fans and drove viewership. Wilson's MVP status now feels somewhat hollow when weighed against the impact of other players this season. Stewart outshone her in the postseason, and Clark's star power was undeniable, even from the sidelines. The fans' desire to see more of Clark, rather than Wilson, suggests a shift in who the audience views as the face of the league. While Wilson may hold the official title, it's hard to argue against the idea that Caitlin Clark, with her unmatched charisma and fan appeal.
Only the aces sell out every game. They got 4 Olympians. They got Aja Wilson, unanimous MVP. They got Kelsey Plum, who was the #1 overall pick. Jackie Young was on the Olympic team. Chelsea Gray was on the Olympic team. I don't get it.
Now let's circle back to the comments Aja Wilson made about Caitlin Clark earlier in the season. After reportedly attempting to downplay Clark's meteoric rise and trying to prevent Nike from promoting her, Wilson now finds herself in a much different position. Her playoff run ended in disappointment, and she won't be back on the WNBA court until next season. The timing couldn't be worse for Wilson, who had questioned whether Clark truly deserved all the attention and accolades she was receiving. Ironically, while Wilson's own performance is now being scrutinized, Clark is the player fans are eagerly waiting to see more of. For someone who once hinted that Caitlin Clark was privileged and undeserving of the spotlight, Wilson is now facing the consequences of those words. The same player she tried to dismiss has captured the imagination of basketball fans everywhere, and Clark's rising star is undeniable. Meanwhile, Wilson's legacy is being questioned after failing to lead a star-studded Aces team to the finals. Her playoff struggles and inability to step up in key moments have led some to wonder if her MVP title was truly deserved. In many ways, this feels like karma coming full circle for Wilson. Her attempt to diminish Clark's rise has not aged well, especially now that Clark has earned the admiration and respect of fans across the basketball world. While Wilson's season ends in frustration, Clark's future looks incredibly bright. Fans are clamoring to see more of her, and it's clear that Caitlin Clark is on the verge of becoming one of the biggest stars in the sport, while Wilson faces an offseason filled with questions about her own place in the league. As Aja Wilson heads into the offseason, she has much to reflect on. Her unanimous MVP award, once a career highlight, is now overshadowed by her team's failure to reach the finals. Her comments about Caitlin Clark also linger as a reminder that underestimating others can have consequences. In contrast, Caitlin Clark's future is bright. Despite her early playoff exit, she has already proven herself as a rising star, with fans eagerly following her every move. The viewership numbers speak for themselves. Clark is the player fans want to see on the court. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. More videos are on screen now.